Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's a great pleasure to be here with you today, albeit virtually. What I've been asked to talk today is what steps are expected in the UK in digital industries after COVID-19. My name is Dr. Michael Short. I'm the Chief Scientific Advisor for the Department for International Trade, and in that role, it's good to be with you here today. The role of the Department for International Trade within the UK government is to really help businesses export and drive inward and outward investment. It's to help negotiating market access and trade deals, but also to champion the role of free trade. And we do this in a variety of ways, but clearly my role as scientific advisor is to support this area technically. So I'm going to concentrate today mainly on the digital industries and show how we are supporting and encouraging those businesses to drive both international growth as well as collaboration, and hopefully provide some opportunities for Korean companies as well as others to work with the UK. We can see that our future trade strategy for the UK tech industry has already been rebooted into new partnership in terms of digital trade network for Asia Pacific, in terms of new activities to support tech exporting, to encourage more collaboration internationally. Lastly, a new DIT platform to supercharge UK tech for engagement more broadly on the global stage. This brings in some of our knowledge and skills in the English regions, but also supports the expansion of some of our high performing organizations in tech. This includes things like a new fintech campaign and also broader outreach and marketing materials. In terms of technology, we and many other nations see technology as a key driver for recovery, and the tech sector, whether it be digital, whether it be AI, whether it be telecoms, all of those play a key role. What we've seen during COVID-19 is a lot of activity by many organizations going online, justifying more online activity where working remotely, but also supporting higher demand for cybersecurity and secure communications. We've also seen much more use of AI, artificial intelligence, and data analytics in predicting COVID-19 outcomes and helping to bring people back to work in a more normal environment. Naturally, we've tried to bring in also tech to help with things like social distancing and contact tracing, in which the Korean authorities have done particularly well. But we can see this as being relevant also in new sectors such as retail or agriculture and food and drink and manufacturing. If we take some evidence from London Tech Week that's been held in the last couple of weeks in the UK, it attracted many people online instead of the usual physical festival where people could meet and greet and discuss collaboration. Some of the slides here show some of the statistics that already are around us. So traditionally, the UK has been really strong in terms of tech, attracting perhaps a larger share of venture capital investment compared to most other countries in Europe. And we can see the growth from 2015 to 2019 from relatively low beginnings, multiplying by about 2.5 times. That same rate of growth has not been matched by most of Europe, although clearly Germany and France have done pretty well. But if we look at the total tech investment, venture capital investment, we can see the UK is roughly Germany plus France combined, and therefore is outstretching most other countries in Europe. We also rank #1 for unicorns, those billion-dollar businesses, based on the last 10 years. This year to date only, clearly 79, we create quite a rate of unicorn growth, and it's a significant growth indicator for high-tech industries. So we monitor that regularly, but we've had a decade of consistent growth. Some of the unicorns since London Tech Week last year can be seen on the right-hand side, and we've done particularly well compared to the larger venture capital nations of Israel, France and Germany. We also saw that the amount of venture capital money raised in different countries is useful to compare. So this particular chart compares Paris, Stockholm, Berlin and Tel Aviv. And when we combine it in 2020, we can see that the London is top of the list and has a significant base to build on from 2019. What's also interesting is the spread of sectors. Fintech associated with the City of London always does well, and that represents around 39% of the total in VC investment. But we also see growth in enterprise software. We see a significant share in energy and transportation. So those four categories represent roughly 75% of the total. We do see a rise, though, in cybersecurity and health, as well as in other areas. But overall, this is a useful chart to compare cities and fundraising with key sectors. We also see that London tech companies do well to actually navigate the COVID-19 activity. This was a survey that we undertook only last month, and this shows actually how some of the startups are seeing the world in a post-COVID world. Clearly, thinking about funding is key to them. Thinking about how they do partnerships is also key, but also thinking about how to manage and slow down their cost rise in periods of uncertainty. This was taken as a survey between April the 6th and April the 17th across many of the leading venture capital funders. I also like to just look briefly at a survey undertaken in April by the GSM Association that represents the mobile operators globally. They looked in their survey at the leading licensed operators from Asia and Europe, America, and a few in the Southern Hemisphere. And they picked out 8 key criteria in terms of which were actions by the operators to try and handle COVID-19. Many of them highlighted network capacity being made more robust and added to. Quite a few of them highlighted zero rating, access to key social and connectivity services, vital for access to emergency services. Some also highlighted key service hotspots and more capabilities, such as the rollout of 5G. But what was also interesting was the high figures associated with telehealth or telemedicine, and also the high figures associated with public education. Once they'd done this particular question, they did a supplementary question, which was which of these 8 areas are going to be sustainable going forward? In other words, how do you add to the resilience, and what would be the new areas of focus? And these 4 stood out as having a long-lasting effect. What's a little unsurprising is perhaps the attention on network capacity or the attention on security. For security, clearly, when we live in a more fully online world, security will be absolutely vital, and it happens to be one of the key areas of UK strengths. But they also highlighted that more investment would go into areas such as data collaboration and data analytics, pointing really to a world of AI, artificial intelligence, but also to much greater visualization of data available from mobile networks around the world. And fourthly, they highlighted telehealth and telemedicine as an area for future growth. 62% said they would be doing more in that area to help with both health and care, but where remote facilities were offered. Perhaps services such as Babylon, where we can see doctors remotely, or other services which may involve more of the internet in that telehealth or telemedicine area. Clearly other work will be done in those other areas as well, but those were the 4 that stood out. They also revised their 5G forecasts through to 2025, showing a slowdown perhaps in 5G rollout this year in 2020, down by about 26%. But still, they have a high forecast for 2025 of around 1.8 billion, and those customers are felt to be down to about 1.7 billion or 4% down. So a lower forecast, but not significantly lower in the 5-year time frame through to 2025. And the map on the right shows already the state of play where there are 5G networks already rolled out in red and significant planned 5G networks being rolled out in the coming years ahead. So when we come back to the UK, we also think about not just networks, but we also think about what are some of the services that are there. And the UK happens to be about the 3rd largest e-commerce market in the world, and usually a very strong trial ground for buying things online. This particular chart gives around 18 categories of where there are significant purchases made from smartphones or from computers online, showing 60% or more clothes or sports goods now being bought online, 49% of household goods, 43% of travel, 44% of holiday accommodation, 43% tickets for events. So clearly with COVID uncertainty, we're not expecting the e-commerce to drop. If anything, it's expected to grow. And there's a forecast there suggesting that if the UK market alone was 200 billion euros, close to $200 billion, then it could be as high as 222.5 billion, or a good 10 to 12% up year on year, even with the dip associated with COVID-19. So we've got the most advanced e-commerce market, which largely means that many people come and try things in terms of e-commerce at scale within the UK, even before they try other markets. But there's significant online growth expected. The UK is also associated very strongly with fintech, and just one example, the UK some 10 to 14 years ago led some of the very early trials for mobile money transfer, and that was done in Africa, in places like Mozambique and Kenya. And I'm pleased to say that by the end of 2019, there were over 1 billion mobile money accounts around the world. Now, this is a significant tribute to some of the fintech knowledge that exists in the UK, as well as some of the key capabilities in telecoms and security. The rate of growth can be seen globally by region, but overall, I think we can see now we've passed a major milestone that mobile money is here to stay. Many countries in Africa that already have mobile money systems have removed the transfer fee during the crisis. That's encouraged an uptick in terms of volume of mobile money transfers via mobile in those countries where that's. So I think mobile money and fintech is here to stay, and we'll hear much more about that in the coming months. One of the other UK strengths we're seeing more interest in is cybersecurity, and this largely arises from greater use of broadband and online services. The market for the UK alone was around £8.3 billion in 2019, but that's up around 46% from 2016. It's supported by significant government investment in areas such as the National Cybersecurity Centre and also significant investment in university R&D. So as a result, we've got a very large talent pool available to attract many companies that want to collaborate in the UK or export from the UK. We've also got a cyber growth partnership, which is in effect a national programme to support cybersecurity startups and SMEs in particular. We've also got key innovation centres and accelerators, such as those shown at the bottom. And these aren't just government run, they're also privately run, but there's good examples of collaboration to minimise threats such as fraud or malware, or areas where cybersecurity can make a real difference. And certainly if you're an e-commerce leader, you need to be a cybersecurity leader as well. We've also got key strengths in AI, and although I haven't listed all of the examples here, we've recently established the Alan Turing Institute, which brings together key university partners. That's attracted significant inward investment from major multinationals from around the world. We've also got key links between that Alan Turing Institute and the City of London and other key sectors which benefit from AI and access to big data. We're looking at all sorts of ways of harnessing big data so it can be shared appropriately between major players, such that they can innovate using the big data that is available. But artificial intelligence is on a growth curve. Yes, there is some hype around this, but the reality is we can see a lot more potential there for collaboration internationally in AI. In education, we've traditionally been very strong, perhaps backed by the power of the English language. But when we think about education and training for a new world, we can think about this perhaps as per this chemical style table. What this shows is how important it is to think about tools and applications from knowledge and content all the way through education into new delivery models such as online learning, learning support tools, even international education, where we can see the power of online education reaching out into different countries. We can start to see how things like assessment and verification need to be trusted. If they're not trusted, they can't be a passport for life. We can also see tools and solutions which may help with workforce and talent and skills and jobs. There isn't time today to go through the whole chemical table of education, but actually the UK is proud of its history and tradition in providing a strong global landscape in this area, and also moving a lot of it online, as we've had to do very quickly for many of our universities and schools. But the change, I think, is a change to stay. We'll see a lot more in the way of digital or e-learning going forward, whether it be for school and university education or lifelong learning and work-based learning. We can also see in healthcare significant progress towards digital health. This is not just apps on your smartphone. This is transforming systems in hospital and care settings. This is improving the productivity associated with caseload scheduling, managing patients virtually, a variety of solutions with video, clearly all dependent on high quality and resilient networks. We can also see solutions that can actually involve real feedback to patients who aren't able to come into hospitals or GP surgeries so much. And one thing that's taught us with COVID-19 is the importance of having the appropriate approach to digital health. These are 10 essential ideas that we've listed, and we intend to extend that to many, many more applications that can be used internationally in the digital health space. Thank you very much for your attention. I hope I've given you a good flavour of some of the things that DIT is doing on behalf of the UK economy to both recover from COVID-19, but also find new areas for collaborating in a digital world. I do hope you enjoy the rest of your conference and you get some good insights from all the other speakers as well. Thank you for having me.